My passion has always been sovereignty through financial freedom. And when you have money, you have freedom of thought. No one can buy your thought. No one can buy your vote, right? When no one can tell you how to think in exchange for money or food or shelter or security. And so I've chosen to not be dependent on any system or government. So really, that's always been my purpose, and I've done it through entrepreneurship. I've realized that money is a weapon, and I can deploy it to do a lot of good with it, to serve humanity with it, and to teach my kids and those I love, like you, absolute sovereignty.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms. Here's your host, Bryce Henson.
Hey, welcome back, friends, to another amazing episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. Back with my man B for our monthly shoot. And since I got you in the show or in the studio today, B, I want to talk a little bit about your evolution over the last decade, and then more importantly, what that future looks like for you. As you just dropped your new podcast, the Bedros Keuilian Show, from the Empire Show, which you ran for a handful of years. So we're going to get to that, but I really want to kind of deep dive and unpeel the onion. We're shooting this at the end of 2022. B, when you look back of the last decade, what was your purpose? I mean, you did some incredible things. You started and founded Fit Body Boot Camp. You started Truly. You started the project, coaching programs. I mean, you wrote a book, Man Up, which I want to dive into a little bit. But how would you define your purpose over the last 10 years?
Yeah, well, my purpose is to teach my kids sovereignty, financial freedom, independence of thought, and to be able to help and serve the people that I value, whether it's Shriners Children's Hospital, which I've donated well over 7 figures, Compassion International, 97 kids adopted through Compassion International, Toys for Tots, nearly 7 figures in toys bought over the last 5 or 6 Christmases for Toys for Tots. And so my passion has always been sovereignty through financial freedom. And when you have money, you have freedom of thought. No one can buy your thought. No one can buy your vote, right? When no one can tell you how to think in exchange for money or food or shelter or security. And so I've chosen to not be dependent on any system or government. So really, that's always been my purpose, and I've done it through entrepreneurship. I've realized that money is a weapon, and I can deploy it to do a lot of good with it, to serve humanity with it, and to teach my kids and those I love, like you and others in this building, absolute sovereignty.
Dude, love that. I love you too, bro.
Thank you.
So one of the other things that defines me or defines you when I think of you is I feel like the last decade was the decade that you manned up. And you certainly wrote a book on that as well.
Sure.
So shameless plug, if you haven't watched that or read the book Man Up or listened to Audible, game changer. Now in the book Man Up, there's 6 lessons on leadership, from self-discipline to clarity of vision to emotional resilience to effective communication to decisiveness and to building a high-performing team. So while we're looking back at your last decade, can you walk us through, those lessons and kind of what they mean to you?
Sure, yeah. So I wrote Man Up because, quite honestly, leadership has so many levels to it. There's leadership of self. There's leadership of others. There's positional leadership, and there's moral leadership. Positional leadership is, for example, you're the CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp, right? That is a position that you hold. However, I know that everyone loves and respects you in here because you lead from the front. You say what you're going to do, and you do it. You are fair to everybody. You also have moral leadership. So when you think about all the different levels of leadership of yourself, leadership of your family, leadership of your business, leadership in times of crisis. You look at so many great celebrities right now. I was just reading an article about something Schneider. He was a comedian. He was always in the in those funny movies with Adam. Oh my God, I'm drawn as anyway. His name doesn't matter. Something Schneider, it'll come to me. Someone leave it in the comments if you are like vibing on who I'm talking about. But he is leaving Hollywood And he's out there talking about like, hey, what happened in 2020? He goes, I am speaking out against the left-leaning politics. I am speaking out against Hollywood. I think what took place with the pandemic was a travesty. And I've got a lot of celebrity friends in Hollywood who will text me when I put up a post speaking out against what took place. And they go, hey, Bedros, I can't leave a comment or like that on your social media platform, but I just want to thank you for posting that. I'm on board with you. Yet this guy, great comedian, great actor. In fact, he was the guy in Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
Was it Adam Sandler? No.
He's in all the Adam Sandler movies. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. The more we think about Schneider, you know what I'm talking about? Rob Schneider. Doggone it. Why don't you say anything, man? Rob Schneider. Thank you, Maine. Woo! Yeah. Maine behind the video coming through. Oh, my God.
Thanks, Maine.
You know, like when you have something like just pressing on you, like until I think of his name, I don't even want to move on to another question, not another topic, right? It was one of those moments for me. All right. So Rob Schneider, man. And so anyway, all this to say, when I wrote Man Up, I realized that my leadership muscles were weak. I'm not inherently a great leader in terms of leading others. I'm disciplined, and I could lead myself, and that's how I started building a business as a solopreneur by my own efforts in marketing and sales. And then I recruited my wife, and then we had an assistant, and then me, my wife, and my assistant were working in the spare bedroom. Before you know it, get another assistant, so we get a tiny little office, and before you know it, by about 9 or 10 employees, I was falling apart. I did not know how to communicate well. I did not cast a great vision for what I wanted for our business. And when you're a solopreneur, you don't really need to have a vision to share because the vision lives up here. You could see it in your mind's eye. But once you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or in our case, I don't know how many people we have in our building here, 50 plus employees, if they don't see the vision as clearly as you do, we're all running very different directions at different speeds, and it can become very chaotic. The example you like to use often is that we wouldn't be in the same boat rowing in the same direction. And imagine if you got 10 people in the boat, everyone's rowing at different cadences, different directions. That boat's going nowhere.
Chaos,
exactly. And so I realized the chaos right around 2012 and 13. I had a massive panic attack, and I realized it was a byproduct of poor leadership, poor communication, indecisiveness on my part, no vision, or at least I had a vision in my head, but I didn't know how to explain the vision, mission, and core values of Fit Body Bootcamp. And so I committed to becoming a better leader, spent, 3, 4, 5 years really pouring into understanding leadership from every angle, from the moral aspect to the positional aspect, to communication, casting a vision, turning employees into team members and team members into high performers. And wouldn't you know it, by 2015, 16, Fit Body Bootcamp starts hitting the Inc. 5000 list and Entrepreneur Magazine's top 200 fastest growing franchise list. So it was a direct byproduct of my ability to build my leadership skills, was a growth of Fit Body Bootcamp, and magically my anxiety attacks went away, right? And so I was like, listen, I've always learned something about myself. Like if it's happening to me, it's happening to millions of others. Like I've always seen me as like, I'm a regular dude. I'm ambitious. I get it. I'm driven. I'm disciplined. But otherwise, I'm a regular dude. And if it's happening to me, it's happening to others, dudes and dudettes. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know if there's a book out there that really talks about high performance, becoming a high performance human, a high performing leader, to be able to lead your family, to be able to find that work-life balance or work-life mix. And so now that I've gone and come to the other side, and the proof is in the pudding, that by becoming a better leader, better communicator, more decisive, leading myself and others, well, not to say I've arrived. I haven't. I'm a constant work in progress, and I will die a work in progress as a leader. However, that said, I wrote that book, Man Up, and just shared it all. My anxiety attacks, my shortcomings, some of the skeletons in my closet that I had been sexually abused as a child. And when you carry trauma with you, you address people differently. Mm-hmm. I was sexually abused by 2 older boys when I was between the ages of 4 and 6. So you can imagine my relationship with other men in the business world may have been fists up, right? And so how exactly is this relationship going to kick off well if I'm already coming with distrust for other men of authority? Because when I was a child, that happened to me. And so I worked with a therapist for 15 months, and I talked about, Dr. Kevin, and I talked about him in the book, and I talked about having a mentor like Jim Franco and what mentors do. But Jim Franco taught me to sell and market, but he never taught me leadership. So I just figured leadership was something you do in the military, or maybe like on a sports field, like, hey, you're the head quarterback, so you're leading the team. I thought if you're going to work here and I'm going to pay you, then you're going to work as hard as me. I just really did assume that. And that was not the case.
No,
and so, right? Well, we know that now. I know people are like, what are you, dumb? Yeah, maybe I was. Maybe I was a little dumb. I was a little naive about it. But whatever the case is, I was able to distill that there's 6 pillars to becoming a high-performing human or a great leader. And the first pillar is self-discipline. Like, you must lead from the front. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite or an imposter. Right? If you have no self-discipline and you can't lead yourself, you cannot expect others to lead themselves or your business for you. It just won't happen. Number 2, clarity of vision. How important is it to be able to cast a vision up here and go, okay, I know what I want. Like back in the day when I started Fit Body Bootcamp, if you had asked me, hey, Bedros, how many locations do you want? I would have said a lot. And if you said, well, when do you want them by? I would have said, as soon as possible, Bryce. Now, with that said, if you and I were the only 2 employees of the company, and you're like, all right, Bedros wants a lot and as soon as possible, for you, a lot might be 10,000 by 5 years. And for me, it might be 1,000 by 6 years. Like 2 different visions. Mm-hmm. So your actions now are going to piss me off, and I'm going to be passive aggressive towards you because you're not doing what I think you should be doing because you're operating off a different vision because I was so vague with it. And so crafting and being able to message a great vision, like what I want, when I want it by, and why I want it. The reason why is so important. If you say I want this because we're going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, who's really going to get on board with the fact that you're going to make so much money and I'm giving you literally time from my life as an employee, as a team member?
Probably not many people.
Not many people. And so you better have a great reason why, what you want specifically, the number of locations, by when, and why. And our why is to be able to impact millions of people, 5 million people in my mind's eye, 5 million people every morning through health, fitness, and a positive mental attitude. And now our team members here are on board with that plan. The money is a byproduct of that plan for all of us. And so casting a vision is very important. And of course, number 3, being able to effectively communicate that vision, because if you can't communicate your vision, number 1, if you can't communicate with others, number 2, and people ask me, well, what do you mean communicate? I always give them the example of communication was tested by either Harvard or Yale, I forget, 1,000 people, they were tested. And then they were asked, how well do you communicate? Something like 85% of the people said, they ranked themselves like an 8, 9, or a 10, being like awesome communicators. When they showed them the results of their communication skills, majority of those people were more like 3, 4, 5s. Like they were really poor communicators. And so oftentimes you'll say something because you don't want to hurt my feelings, or I'll say something, but I really mean something else. And that's creates a lot of room for interpretation and for assumption to happen. And that's where things get lost. And in a business or on a mission, if, a lot of our military guys, if they miscommunicate, that's where you end up having a lot of casualties. In a business, you can have a lot of casualties as well. Money lost, opportunity lost, employees lost, great employees lost. And I've lost great employees because I was a poor communicator. So people ask me now, what is an example of great communication? Tell, show, do. Tell them specifically what you want without worrying about hurting their feelings. Show them. If you can give them an example, a visual example, like, Bryce, I want this outcome. If you're a web developer and I say, hey, I want a website that does this, that, and the other, well, I told you. Now I might show you 3 or 4 different examples that are out there that I want. Because in your mind's eye, you might be seeing something completely different based on your life experience. Mm-hmm. So tell, show, and then finally ask for a due date. Like, hey, Bryce, as the web developer, when can I have this website done? And now you gave me a due date and I've closed the loop in my head. I'm no longer going to assume that Bryce is lazy. He doesn't prioritize me. See, we make all these assumptions when really Bryce is like, well, the scope of work this guy gave me is pretty intense. So it's going to take 4 weeks. Well, I'm like, I want it as soon as possible. And to me, it's like 4 days. And now I've already billed you as lazy or as you don't put me as a priority. And therefore now I'm going to be passive aggressive with you. Like, that's horrible. So communication is a very, very important thing. The 4th one being emotional discipline, right? If you are quick to react, I would ask you to consider emotionally respond to things. Instead of reacting emotionally, logically respond. And the difference between a reaction and a response is just taking about 30 minutes to an hour to go, what did Bryce really mean by that? Instead of sending a all caps angry text message with multiple exclamation points or putting up a post on social media that you later regret. Take an hour and go, what did he really mean? Was he really trying to be malicious? Was he trying to hurt my feelings? Or did he have an outcome in mind for himself? And I've interpreted it this way, and therefore I could have maybe reached out to him.
And most times it's the latter.
Absolutely right. Because most times people don't really want to come out and hurt you. We're all just selfish human beings, and we just want to go, hey, here's what's in it for me. So the best example I can share is many, many years ago, when I had my 5 personal training gyms in San Diego, Premier Results, a personal trainer who was a really popular personal trainer at my Escondido location quit and ended up taking something like 21 or 22 of his clients, well, of my clients, my clients with him, right? With him. Now, he had no ill intentions towards me. I took it as though he's trying to take money out of my pocket. He's doing something shady behind my back. He took it as, Bedros has 5 gyms. Each gym has a bunch of personal trainers with a bunch of clients. These clients really love and adore me. They're probably going to ask where I'm going, and most of them are probably going to go anyway. So he just said, hey, I'm going to this gym, and I'm going to start paying to be a personal trainer. I'm going to actually start my own business. I'm going to pay rent. Would you want to come along? And they said, yes. Now, should he have asked me? Sure.
Yes.
Would I have told him maybe a different strategy? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But his actions were not meant to hurt me. His actions were just to look out for himself and those clients. I took it as a malicious attack and reacted, unfortunately and embarrassingly, reacted poorly. And I will forever, regret that. And so emotional reaction versus logical response is just all an hour or so of saying, what did they really mean? And putting your feelings aside and trying to look at it through the other person's lens. You will then respond and not feel like a dipshit afterwards, like I've often done.
Yeah, easier said than done, but that is the value of leveling up. That's the value of being an evolved human. That's the value of developing your leadership skills, because then when you do respond, okay, you get a better outcome for them and also your team.
What's up, my friend? Bryce here. Now, you might know me as the co-host of this podcast and the CEO of FitBody. But what many people don't know is that I actually began my journey as a FitBody franchise owner. Now, being an owner, I wake up every day absolutely doing what I love. I live my passion. I help people transform their lives and have both financial and personal freedom. It's for these reasons and many more that other owners join the brand and open their own FitBody locations too. So if you're looking to build a highly profitable business, take charge of your life, and create an impact in your very own community, then opening a FitBody gym might be a perfect fit for you. Now, to see if a territory is available in your area, as we have very limited spots due to our incredible growth, go ahead and visit our website at fbbcfranchise.com to complete an application. Well, thanks, and back to the show.
Transitioning on, now that's the foundation, because I want to start there. But really the vision for this episode, B, is I just wanted to pick your brain in terms of what's next. And it's been really inspiring being coached by you, being led by you, working with you since 2012 and seeing your evolution, seeing the growth of FitBody, seeing the growth of Truline, seeing you write your book, Man Up. But now the future continues on. I see another evolution in place, and starts off with the Empire podcast, which you just now rebranded and shot your new show, the Bedros Keuilian Show. So I want to kind of pick your brain really on the idea, the vision for that. What's to come there?
Yeah. Well, so the whole idea of 4 years of filming the Empire podcast, 209 episodes. I believe that if you go and listen to or watch episodes of the Empire podcast on YouTube, you will have a PhD in business, like a better education and actual business and making money and being profitable than you would from Yale or Harvard, because they profess. I've actually practiced this across many different industries. And so as that time went on, those 4 years, and as the pandemic hit in 2020, and as I gain years, I'm 48 now, and there's more white in my beard than black, you kind of realize, I think I'm called to do something even greater. I've always felt like I was called to do something. And every time I stepped up to it, like I felt like I was called to be a personal trainer and help people with their health and fitness. And in the process of helping them with their health and fitness, and that's because fitness changed my life. You know, I've said the story a million times. I was a fat kid all the way throughout high school. Wanted to get in shape so I can ask Nakaya to the prom. One of the football players helped me work out the summer before senior year. He taught me how to eat right and work out. I lost 30 pounds, came back senior year looking jacked and lean, and my self-esteem and self-confidence were through the roof. I never asked Nakaya to the prom. That's a different story. But I was like, fitness is my path. I want to help others achieve this same feeling, both in physical and mental, emotional transformation that I achieved. In the process of helping people through fitness, I realized that I really loved talking to them in between the sets, connecting with them and learning about their life and just seeing if I could help them become just a slightly better version of themselves. And I enjoyed that part a lot. So much so that for many years, and even today, we still say, welcome to Fit Body Bootcamp. You're not just part of a fitness franchise, you're part of a real big self-development organization. Like, we are a self-development organization. That's what Fit Body is. Like, you are now the leader of a self-development organization. You and Wilbur and our CAP coaches do an amazing job of developing our owners into higher performing versions of themselves. And humanity, I believe the vibration, the frequency of humanity goes up because of what Fit Body Bootcamp has done. And each of those gym owners, franchise owners, go into their Fit Body boot camps and they impact their coaches and their staff, and those coaches and that staff have the trickle down effect on those clients. Like, when you think about the impact we're having, it's like obscene, man. It's nuts. And so, but with that, I realized right in 2018, 2019 that, man, you know, I really love working with men. While I love working and coaching people on their mindset and their business and their ability to be a better human, connect with consciousness, I really love working with men and helping them break through their limiting beliefs and overcome their vices, etc. I've always just had this way of, if I see a guy living outside of what I believe is his moral values, I have this approach. And I go, hey, man, just so you know, I love you to pieces, and I know we're friends, and I never want to do anything to tarnish our friendship. So you can go tell me to F off. However, I've made an observation, and I'd like to share that with you if that's okay. And I've had many conversations like that with men who I love, who I adore, who I just see as my brothers. And every single one of those men have been like, yeah, sure, tell me what's up. And then I let it rip. And I'm like, remember now, you can tell me to go F off anytime. And I'll remind them about, hey, you know, I think you might have an issue with alcohol. I think you might have an issue with drugs. I think that, you know, you're a poor leader and it's affecting your business. And here's how. And I could imagine this is bleeding into your relationship with your wife and your kids. And part of it is, I'm all of that. I am that guy. And the other part is, I just feel called to do that. And I do. And thankfully, these men have been very open and receptive towards hearing that from me. And so, but as I kept doing that, and 2020 came about, I realized our country, like, we are the only country left with true freedoms, the United States. And those freedoms are managed by the Constitution. And the leadership of our country, the president, the vice president, the Senate, Congress, myself as a naturalized citizen, because I wasn't born here. I escaped communism, you know this, and I came to the United States. And so I had to be sworn in to defend at all costs the Constitution against all threats, foreign and domestic. And if you go into the military, you take that same oath, and our country's leadership has taken that oath, yet they try and strip away the amendments that they feel are not valuable to their overreaching, tyrannical attempts. And so as I see that happening, like, damn it, once again, I'm called to do something greater. And so with the project and with my show, the Bedros Keuilian Show, and I fought it, just so you know, I fought the Bedros Keuilian Show for a long time.
What do you mean by that?
If you look at when the last episode of the Empire Show was, like 5 months later, for 5 months, I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do a solo show where you just talk unfiltered and unapologetically about everything: culture, money, fitness, mindset, suicide. I talk about it all on the Bedros Keuilian Show, and they're all solo episodes, and they come from my 48 years of life experience. I'm not saying they're all right, but they're my opinion, and I will exercise my freedoms while I still can. And I want to protect this country so dearly because there's no other country that's protected by a constitution. And I realize the only way we can do this is by helping every individual. What they are trying to do, the opposition is trying to separate us, black from white, vaccine, pro-vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, pro-masks versus anti-mask, pro-cops versus anti-cops, the right from the left, freedom of choice versus non-freedom of choice. They will separate you in as many ways as possible because it's easier to attack you when you're an island as a human. And so I realized the same way they try and separate us, we can't just try and fix everyone on the left. We can't just try and fix everyone on the right. We can't just try and fix all the cop haters or the cop lovers. We have to fix every individual. We have to give every individual an opportunity to have the aha moment. And so I just speak to humanity on the Bedros Keuilian Show with the hope that an individual is listening and it's hitting home. And you've told me this before, I've got a way with words and metaphors and drawing word pictures. And I see it in the comments on the first 2 episodes that I've already put out, like, I never looked at the snooze button that way. But now that you said it, yeah, you know what? The snooze button is the first L of the day. And after that, if I end up having more losses if I hit the snooze button, or if I don't hit the snooze button, then I have more wins. Or the crab story that I share, or the purpose, and like German Shepherds need purpose. Otherwise, German Shepherds will get depressed and anxious. Well, we're no different than a German Shepherd. We get depressed and anxious in the absence of purpose and doing something valuable towards humanity. German Shepherds will go dig holes in your backyard to give themselves purpose. We end up digging holes in our life through alcohol, drugs, infidelity, pornography, overconsumption of food, and all these things. We're no different than these animals. I just draw these parallels, and I've become good at it, and I think I'm able to hopefully do my little part in awakening humanity so that the next generation and the next generation can continue on to support this beautiful country of ours.
Love that. Love that, B. All right, a couple other topics of conversation in this particular show. We've obviously had some chats about it, but one thing I've noticed that you post the tagline, the hashtag flip the switch.
Yes.
And that's been a recent, over the last few months at least, I've paid attention to it. So I would love some more insight on that and that mindset, if you will, because that's what it seems to be.
It is. Yeah. So where flipping the switch came from is this conversation that myself and the other project instructors have during the project. If you're a new listener to this, the project is a 75-hour, it's actually called the Modern Day Night Project. It's a 75-hour personal development experience for men. Ideally, it would be entrepreneurs, men who are entrepreneurs, have families, and are trying to balance the growth of their business and their family, and the stress of that is overwhelming for many us men. And the project is there because myself, I'll help them with their productivity and life structure and personal discipline and, of course, business acumen. Then we have a Navy SEAL as an instructor, and he puts them through hell, along with the Marine who's an instructor. And then we have a former SWAT guy who teaches really cool pistol and rifle tactics, because I believe all men should have the ability to defend their home and their community. And of course, we have an MMA instructor who teaches hand-to-hand combat, which is, hey, we should all have those skills as well as men. And so the project, we put these guys through some treacherous experiences, and they're called evolutions. One of them is called the pit. It's a 400-yard dirt pit that they crawl through with a sledgehammer and their canteen. And you would think it'd be easy, but when it's 26 hours in, you haven't had any sleep, you're hungry, you're exhausted, you've been yelled at by an angry Navy SEAL and Marine and been told a million times you're doing it all wrong, even though you know you did it right. And then you're about 300 yards into the 400-yard crawl, and they make you restart over again. And now it's 4 a.m, and you just don't know how many more times you're going to restart. And any given time, there's a bell. Just like the Navy SEAL, Ray, decided that there's going to be a bronze bell, just like Bud's, where they could ring the bell and quit any time. And the bell is always tempting you to just get up and ring the bell, and the pain stops. So I would notice that these guys would be looking towards the bell. And my role during these physical evolutions is to be the Papa Bear. Like, hey man, Bryce, Don't look towards, I know you'd never look towards the bell, but let's say we're using you. Don't look at the bell. That bell's got nothing for you. You promised your wife and kids that you were going to come back on Saturday and not a day earlier. And you promised them you're going to come back a changed man. So after this evolution, if you still want to ring the bell, you've got my permission. But for now, don't look at the bell. Keep crawling. And I'll give him a fist bump when Ray and Steve, the Marine and SEAL, are not looking. Because when they see me give these guys a fist bump, these guys end up suffering, not me. And so, but all of a sudden you'll see like that guy who was looking at the bell and had defeated eyes, something happens. And there's a flip of the switch. And then us instructors and the medics, will come to one another like, hey, I just noticed this guy. You can tell he flipped the switch. He flipped the switch, meaning he's got this stare. He's not looking towards the bell. He's not looking at the instructors for approval or validation. He's just looking 1,000-yard stare at the outcome. Like for that evolution of the pit, there's 2 giant electrical towers that they have to crawl to, and they're just fixated on that. They will start 1,000,000 times over again if they need to, but they are fixed. The guys that have flipped the switch are locked on. That happens in the ocean when they're during the beach evolution. That happens in the ice bath. That happens on the hike when they're carrying logs and giant tires. They're on this hike that has 8 massive hills for 4 miles. And I love seeing them flip the switch because in that moment, what I learned is change happens in an instant when you decide to flip the switch. Most people think that change, like you look at someone, I'm going to use a battered wife. She's been in this relationship for a long time. She deals with the abuse. She deals with the infidelity. She deals with the alcohol. She deals with the disrespect. She deals with her children getting abused. But something happens within her one day where she flips the switch, she grabs the kids and they're gone. Actually, that's a very familiar story to you.
Dude.
Donna.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's it.
She flipped the switch. Something happened. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it came about, but I'm starting to piece it together. And so I think it is the most magical thing that any human can create change in their life instantly by flipping this mental switch. And so at the project, we talk about it, man, that guy flipped the switch and then he broke it off. Like he can't unflip it, and I love seeing that. And these guys report back months and years later after graduating, like, hey man, my normal life problems are like a 1 and 2 on a Richter scale now because the project set my threshold for adversity so high. And I just respond back, that's because you flipped your switch. So flipping of the switch is an idea, is a mindset, it's a belief system, it's a change can happen in an instant. And I'm working on creating some kind of, I don't know if it'll become a book or if it'll become a video or a manuscript or something where I will be able to share how one can flip the switch in their life and have the change that they want take place instantly like these guys have during the project.
Powerful, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So taking that analogy one step further, I have 2 final questions for you today. What's that switch look like for you in the next 10 years? You flip the switch, B, and you've had all this incredible success over the last decade and a half in terms of building your business empire, et cetera. But what does that evolution look like in the next 10 years?
I may not know what it looks like because I didn't realize I was going to have the Bedros Keuilian Show until I felt called to step up, to have my own show, to voice my own opinion from the lens of a former communist who escaped communism and came to the United States and believes in masculinity, believes in core values, believes in the Constitution, believes in what the United States stands for in the American dream. But I can tell you this, that like I talked about in my book, Man Up, this mindset of never peak, the best is yet to come. I'm committed to living that mindset. And I don't know what the next evolution of Bedros will be. I guess humanity will dictate that. The state of the nation will dictate that. Whoever the source, the power, the God is that calls us, I will answer the call, sometimes reluctantly, but I will answer the call and step up to it. But I do know that it is serving humanity at its highest level. For whatever reason, I've had the gift and the blessing to be able to, I think, speak to people's hearts and minds. Part of it is, I know people have told me, man, you're so lovable, you're so transparent, you're so, vulnerable. Great. If I check all those boxes off and therefore you'll listen for a moment and lend me your ear and your heart so that I could maybe show you another perspective and help you just increase your IQ and EQ and adversity quotient, AQ, a little bit more, then I've done my job. But if I can do that on a mass scale, through all the people that I've helped, I think that's really the end goal here.
That's beautiful, my friend. We'll all be here supporting you, cheering you on, and excited for what that evolution looks like, B.
Thank you.
All right, my last question for you today, and we rebranded recently to the Fitness CEO podcast. So to sign off, what is being a fitness CEO, whether it be your business and or of your life, mean to you?
You know, if you just even take away fitness for a moment, just being the CEO of your life means that you get to decide who stays and goes in your life. Like, you don't have to deal with shitty people. You don't have to deal with low frequency, low vibration people. If you are the CEO of your life, you are the fitness CEO of your life, of your business, you get to make the decision. Like, no one makes the decisions for you. You take the responsibility. The buck stops with you. And I love that level of responsibility. The Chief Executive Officer, CEO. Let's not forget those words, chief. Like, our commander-in-chief is the president of the free world. You are the CEO of your life, the chief executive officer of your life. You get to decide who gets a promotion in your life, who you get to see more, what you get to do with them, how you get to spend your life with them, who is an irritation or a energy vampire or is just a nuisance in your life or just brings your emotions and your vibration down, and you get to fire them as the CEO of your life. And so with that said, I think one of the most important roles that every human has, whether they are an entrepreneur or not, is that they are the CEO of their life. And if they can act accordingly, then they can fire, hire, promote people accordingly. And that would give you a higher quality of life, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Dude, we're going to mic drop that because that's a perfect way to end the segment. And I love being in the studio with you, B, and I love sharing this message because, as we talked about in a previous message, leadership is about, being the best version of you. It's a constant self-development program. That's what we do at Fit Body Bootcamp. That's what we do with this podcast. And my friends, I know you got a few nuggets that you can take away from this man's life. I'm going to highly encourage you to apply those to yours. So, B, appreciate you, my friend. I know you got a ton of value in this episode. Go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, write your biggest takeaway in the comments. We'd love to engage, and we'll see you in the next episode.